Alright, everyone. Let me set some different music on. Okay, we're gonna go with this one for now. Uh, so, I wanted to very quickly say something that I was thinking about. And what I was thinking about was how basically... Oh, God. Jesus. Okay, but I was thinking about how basically all we're seeing... Oh. That's freaky. There's more. Oh, no. Um... But I was thinking of how, with all these characters, and with characters in media in general, all we ever get is this window into their lives, into who they were, or who they are. And I kind of was, and this is one of those episodes I'm recording on my lunch break, and I was kind of reflecting on Duke a little bit. Because, well, sure, we can just say crazy meth head shoots and kills a waitress and then does other crazy meth head things. I don't feel like that's fair. I really don't feel like that's fair. And I want to be fair to these characters, not just hypercritical of what we saw, but hypercritical just not being hypercritical. And an easy example of what I really mean is that we know their names, not their story. Like, sure, we know this story. We know, we know these stories. But there's other things that we just don't know. And while with the phone side story and other stuff that Chase has done, I feel judgmental of him and harsh against him. I just look at how little we know of everyone. And I feel like with Duke, there's maybe something there. Because think about it from his perspective. He's a strung out meth head ferret who rolls marijuana in with his cigars. Like, that wasn't a blunt, that was a full ass cigar. And he lives in this shitty town in shithole America. And he has these stories of his grandparents in the same town going insane, having hysteria, murders in the streets and fire and all that. So he has these things, these stories in his head, and suddenly shit starts to resemble those stories. And now the person that he's been hallucinating as being all around town is suddenly actually in town, and shit just got worse? In some sort of fucked up way, I can kind of see his logic where he was coming from. And I can't blame him for that. Also, yeah, he shot Janice, but in his defense, Janice was described as covered in blood with a knife and as reaching for something. And he maybe is being truthful when he says he doesn't want to hurt Chase. I just look at that and I have to wonder, what else aren't we seeing from these people? Like Clint especially. There's a lot where we get the picture, or at least I hope people get the picture, that he's a strung out meth head, but that's because the drugs are filling something in his life that he doesn't have, which is happiness. That's what addictions do. They're evil. They feed on not they don't feed on healthy people, because healthy people are able to fend them off. They feed on people who are damaged. It's like wood borers. Wood borers are a worm, and again, now mind you, I may have received this from a semi-unreliable narrator, so this may not be don't take this as absolute fact. Always look anything I say up. But wood borers are a type of worm that create these very distinctive holes in trees. It's almost in like a grid pattern, and they never attack a healthy tree. If you've got wood borers, that means there's already something else wrong with the tree. So it's important for you to find out what else is wrong and not just deal with the symptom. And as an easy real life example that I want to give is when I worked at one of the pizza places I worked at, there was a jail sort of up the road from us. And people would sometimes come in from having just gotten released and like ask to use our phone. It was a common enough occurrence because the gas station wouldn't let them do it, and all the other businesses like just wouldn't let them do it. So they would come. This guy came in, asked for water, asked to use our phone. No big. And he couldn't get a hold of somebody, or whoever he called couldn't help him, so he just gets his water and just patiently and quietly goes and sits in our eating area. And you know, my dinner rush comes in, or this is just after lunch rush, and then my dinner rush comes and goes, and as we're tapering off, I ground the corner because one of my employees said that guy was still there because I was manager at the time, or shift lead, whatever bullshit title they can say to not give you a proper manager's salary. And he was still there, so I went and I talked to him for a second, and he explained to me that what happened was he and his girlfriend got popped for public intoxication. Now, you might think, oh, they were being belligerent, angry drunks. Well, I'm inclined to believe they were just walking to their car to sleep it off, and between where they were parked and the bar, a cop popped them and breathalyzed them. Because cops in my area were notorious assholes. I'm talking like the kinds of cops that you hear about that give other cops bad names. So, and I'm serious, by the way, like, they legitimately at one point pulled my dad over for going 1 mile over the speed limit. 1 mile. They pulled me over several times when I was riding my little 49cc scooter. And it's like, I can't be too angry at them because it's a 49cc scooter, and anything higher than 49 is supposed to have a plate and tags and stuff. But still, it's like past midnight and I'm on a back road and I'm got my lights on, I've got my helmet on, I've got gloves on, and I've got my safety glasses on. What do you want from me? So cops in our area were notorious hard asses about everything. And hell, that ticket that they gave my dad was a couple $100. And also, they tried to pull the little number where a couple months later, oops, it looks like we don't have you down as paid. Which my dad held onto the receipt, walked right in there and said, yes, the fuck I am. But to get back on it, so this guy was stuck here because his girlfriend at the time had a prior for some non-violent thing, but she had a prior. So they held her for longer. Except the problem is she had the keys. And they only came in her car, and his phone was in her car. His wallet, or something, was in her car. Dude didn't have anything. He was stuck for like another 2 or 3 days. And so I just went back to my kitchen. I pointed at one of my employees and said, hey, you do a pep test, which I don't know how common this is. I don't think it is. So if you know what restaurant, if you figure out what restaurant this is because you worked there too, congratulations, you get a sticker for working for one of the worst pizza chains in the fucking United States. But I said, hey, you're doing a pep test. So what that is basically they make a pizza real quick. They try to make the pizza as quickly and as best they can. And then when it comes out of the oven, I look at it and I grade it and I tell them whether or not they did good. So comes out, I do the little thing. I'm like, okay, looks like you're good here. You just, you didn't cheese all the way out to the crust, which causes what's known as red eye, where the sauce comes up between the cheese and the crust, and that's what causes all your cheese to fall off when you take a bite. And then I boxed that pizza up, and I took it out and I gave it to the guy, and I told him, hey, well, as long as I'm on shift, you can get a soda. And then I sat there and I talked to him for just a minute, and I told him how it's crazy how this strip mall that we're in, it doesn't lock the doors of the empty lots that are next to our store, because the people that are in the strip mall now use the empty lots for storage. And I told him how crazy it is that that's a thing. And so you can do the math on what I was doing. And so for while he was around, I gave him a pep test. I would give him I had a pep test every night for him, and, let him sit inside our lobby, dining area, whatever. And eventually his girlfriend came in and tried to give me $50, and I was like, no. But I'm not telling that story to make myself sound good. I'm not telling that story to be like, I am a champion of kindness and generosity. No. I'm telling that story because imagine if you had walked by him during that time and you saw him inside an empty lot in a strip mall where he's very obviously got like a pizza box, a cup from the same place, and is trying to like huddle down and sleep. You would think he's homeless. You would think, oh, what a tragedy. What a poor person. And that's what I'm getting at. You only have a window into other people's lives, and that entirely paints your perception of who they are. You don't know what they've been through. You don't know how it looked like from their perspective. And I'm not gonna lie, a lot of the things that we're seeing in Echo really do kind of remind me of that. And make me think about that. Now, Chase, I will admit, since we are from his perspective, I am harsher on him because it is his perspective, but at the same time, I'm also trying to be somewhat patient about it because he's the perspective character. He's not... We don't talk about his home life, we don't talk about how his parents were other than in passing. We see his experiences from his perspective, but his inflections are somewhat few whenever he's reflecting on things. Also, I just noticed his tongue is thoroughly outside his mouth here. So, boy got activated as I did. Dude is panting like a dog. So, I feel like Chase is written that way to allow the basics of a personality, a mannequin of a personality, to be there. but then for him to also be bland enough for us as the reader, us as the audience, to impart our emotions, our thoughts, and our feelings onto him. And that's okay. And that's okay. That's good. It's just that Chase is an asshole. He's a chunt. So, with all that being said, let's go ahead and hop right back into the story right where we were. Yeah, right, the hoarder home. Brian chuckles again and makes his way to stand to my right. I cringe away from him and his stench of old sweat as he grins down at me with his yellow teeth. Brian, get some fucking water. Also, how the fuck? Like, and that's the other thing that I should touch on. Duke seems to very handily be the one calling the shots on this whole operation. I'm pretty sure Brian could snap him in half if he wants to. But Duke is the one calling the shots. Brian looks at Duke with a strange face before turning back to the kitchen. Hey, don't worry about him. I know this thing. Duke taps one of the boards with a finger. Looks bad, but we just gotta hold you here for a bit. He's a queer. He likes it. Duke glares at him as Brian comes back from the kitchen with a ceramic mug. You're a queer too. Brian visibly bristles, and his face loses any of the sick humor it once had. Duke clears his throat. Things have been happening here, and we want to find out why. What? Duke furrows his brows, like a kid trying to figure out something difficult. You see, people ain't right in the head here. No shit. Duke seems to immediately read my thought process because he holds up his hands and shakes his head. Yeah, I know. What we're doing ain't exactly right in the head either. Brian gives his dumb chuckle again, but I keep my face averted from him. Partly because I really can't stand the smell. I'm gonna imagine he chuckles like the ending of, like, the end credit thing from Courage the Cowardly Dog, just But we're all a little fucked up here. What I'm talking about is something else, like what you saw with Janice. I shift a little as I'm reminded about what happened in the diner. Is she dead? Duke looks genuinely sad. I don't know, and it's a damn shame. But you saw the way she came at me. That's the shit I'm talking about. I look at the weasel's waistband and immediately see the handgun tucked into his pants there. And I was hoping to stop it before any of this happened, but now everything's gone to shit. Brian finishes for him, and I can feel him move closer to the platform, laying on. Again, I avoid eye contact, not wanting to provoke him in any way. Yep, and it's only gonna get worse. Duke just looks at me like that's all the information that I need. I don't know what you're talking about. I see a twitch of irritation in Duke's face, and I hold my breath. I mean, what's happening out there? Duke shakes his head. What's happening everywhere? It wasn't just Janice that lost her mind. Duke looks back at the window suddenly, his fur standing on end. I look too, but all I see are the leaves and branches, the late afternoon sun filtering through them. Duke's quiet for a while before he starts speaking again without turning around. It happened to my granddaddy. My daddy, Now what's happening to me? I close my eyes, wondering if Duke is just as crazy as Janice was. If he does, I doubt he even has a clue what he's doing right now. Dale's missing. Cynthia drove off into the desert. Duke turns around to look at me. We saw your cat friend running down the street on the way here, saying something's after him. TJ? Thing is, we've all got something after us, something bad. Won't let you leave when it starts. What's after you? I flinch as Brian speaks just above me, leaning down towards my face. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Bullshit! I flinch again as Duke's concerned demeanor immediately drops away. Why do you think we came to get Leo and you? He pauses, like I should actually know the answer. I feel myself starting to panic again, with these two crazy hillbillies looming over my body. I don't know what... Duke slaps me, and I gasp in shock. I saw you hanging around this fucking town before you even got here, late at night, lurking around. I'm still cringing from the slap, and I keep my eyes closed as if not seeing any of this going on, or as if not seeing any of this is going to make it stop. And then once all your friends get here, all hell breaks loose. You think that's a fucking coincidence? It's quiet for a moment, and all I can hear is the rush of blood in my ears. Is this really happening? I feel Duke touch my arm again, and I flinch in fear. Hey. I feel like he wants me to look at him, so I slowly open my eyes, tears spilling out as I do. The blurry shape of Duke dances in front of me. I'm not saying you did it, or that you wanted it to happen. I don't say anything because I still don't know what he's talking about, but I know I can't tell him that. It's just that you gotta know something, anything, so that we can stop this. Duke starts to pet my arm and I shiver. Yes. Reminder, kids. Do not do drugs. And if you are trapped with a fairly altered individual, do your best to just keep them calm. Yeah, again, I told the subway story, so this is giving me a little bit of flashback. I'm uncomfortable again. Brian is breathing heavily next to me, and a glance at him shows that his expression is more interested now, almost eager. Duke still hasn't answered my question. It makes no sense that they'd go so far as to kidnap us. But why? Why didn't you just ask us? Why all of this? I lift my hands weakly, making the platform rattle. Duke's face darkens. Because I've been asking Leo all week what the fuck you guys are doing. And he wouldn't say shit. Duke stops petting my arm and scratches behind his head. And, someone told me that you would know. I stare at him. Who? Someone I know, and it makes sense. Something bad happens, and if you don't fix it, it won't stop coming after you. I shut my eyes and almost sob. I'm brought back to the shadow chunt that we saw in the phone side story, and then in the mirror above Chase, and in his sleep paralysis. I'm being brought back to those because it feels like the demon thing, whatever it is able to reach out to Chase through the sleep paralyses. And since, like I said, Leo has been seeing Shadow Chunt, and he told Duke about it, and now Duke is seeing Shadow Chunt. And then Leo tells Chase about Shadow Chunt. And then Chase immediately has a sleep paralysis where something's at the window, but he doesn't want to look. And that, whatever the thing is super possessive of Leo. Not gonna lie, I feel like there are 7 Chaos Emeralds that need to be collected before Space Colony Arc can be activated properly, you know? And once Space Colony Arc is activated, well, I mean, then you know, it's game over, but... I shut my eyes and almost sob. Says, they know. And I thought it had to be Leo or you, considering what we've been seeing these past few weeks. Duke pauses. Or maybe one of your other friends? My mind briefly flashes to TJ. I don't know what you're talking about. I wait for another slap. But it doesn't come. I open my eyes again and Duke is looking back out the window. We're kinda protecting you, too. I stare at the back of his head. Things are getting worse out there, and if we don't figure something out soon, we're all gonna die. Duke's voice is dead and distant. Brian, though, touches my other arm, and I gasp and shrink away. He's smirking down at me, looking at my stomach or crotch somewhere around there. Brian, stop. Duke is turned back around, looking over me at the bear. We're not getting anywhere right now, and I gotta get back to the wolf. Even though Duke is the one that hit me, I'm terrified at the thought of being left alone with Brian. Duke sees my face. Don't worry, Chase. Even though you're lying to us, I don't plan to let this pervert have his way with you. Brian snorts. Brian knows what will happen if he does. Duke gives Brian a cold, callous stare, and this time Brian doesn't give his stupid grin back. But you'd better hope your fuck buddy says something soon, because if not, we might have to get mean. Duke heads for the door, turning to look over his shoulder. Just feed him and make sure he doesn't escape. That's it. And with that, Duke briskly disappears out the door, a golden flash of afternoon light lighting up the dim trailer. And once again, it's a matter of perspective. Because I'm sure, according to Duke, all of this logic is sound. This makes sense. And he's doing what he can to make sure that everything ends up as good and as best as it can. Even if we don't agree. Brian and I listen to the weasel's soft, anxious footsteps recede into the distance. As soon as the sound is gone, Brian stands up. I turn my head in time to see him whirl around and smash his fist into the wall. Jesus! I jump as much as I can in my restraints before he does it again, this time slamming both of his fists against the wall. I'm not saying that. He screams so loudly my ears immediately start ringing. I think he's talking to me, so I brace myself for what I'm sure is going to be the worst moment of my life. But he stalks right past me, not even looking at me. Instead, he strides up to the kitchen counter. Once he picks up a dirty pan, then raises it over his head before bringing it down with a crash. I hear glass shatter before he does it again and again. God damn cocksucking piece of shit! He throws the pan across the room to crash into the wall. I'll fucking kill him! I'll kill that fucking cunt! I stare at him, my eyes wide, as I watch him stamp his feet like a little kid. Then he slaps himself across the face twice. After that, he closes his hand into a fist and punches himself in the head repeatedly. It's with a force that would knock me out cold. It might be funny if I wasn't tied down to a contraption in a trailer belonging to Brian. And Brian stumbles after what seems like the fifth blow and covers his face. His massive shoulders shake with sobs. Thanks, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. Thinks he can boss me around. Brian whirls around and slams both his fists into the counter several more times, the sound of shifting glass accompanying it. I'll kill him, I'll kill him, I'll kill him! His voice crescendos in a pitch and volume before he finally slumps against the counter, head in his hands as he starts crying again. I breathe as quietly as I can, not wanting to draw attention to myself. I'll get him. I'll fucking get him. Won't control me no more. Suddenly, his quaking shoulders freeze. Slowly, he turns with a sinking heart. I realize he's looking right at me. The fur on his cheeks, already matted before, are now flat and shiny and with wet. Snot runs from his nose down to his upper lip. Then I see red dripping from his left fist. The fur on the right is matted with blood as well. He watches me for a while, then grins. Am I funny to you? I open my mouth, but nothing comes out. He suddenly strides right up to the end of my platform, standing between my spread legs. I feel numb, the fear taking up every fiber of my being. I feel nothing else. You like seeing him make fun of me? I try to speak again, but still nothing comes out. I swallow. No. My lips tremble and my voice shakes. I've never stuttered so hard in my life. You know what I'd do to you if I could? Brian sneers down at me, the wet fur on his cheeks bristling out. Oh, I swear to God, I'd fucking tear your balls off right fucking now. He rests a huge hand on my crotch and presses down. I cringe and whine. Please. Brian's grin only gets bigger, and he's got a pocket cat, I see, as he watches me wince. Oh, good. You already know how to beg. He leans forward towards my face, moving his hand to clamp over my mouth. And then I'd hang you for hours. I stare at him, breathing hard through my nose, tears leaking down the sides of my face. His hand slides down from my mouth to my neck, and he starts to squeeze. Then I'd give you a little stool to stand on when you start to go out. Let's keep it away again. I gasp and gag, both from the squeezing and from his reeking breath. He stares hard at me, and I can feel his... Well, when you're that close to a person, it's natural for a lot of body parts to touch each other. Then he blinks and slowly pulls back. He watches me gasp and sob for a while before reaching down again. I try to turn my head away, letting out a moan of terror. But he doesn't grab my neck again. Instead, he prods and teases the fur, checking the skin on my neck. Better not, Bruce. If that fucking cocksucker saw that. His expression darkens again. If you fucking tell Duke about this. He raises a fist and I cringe. No, no! I won't. I swear. I turn my head away, eyeing his raised fist. He holds it there while watching me. He seems to be calculating something, like he's wondering if he can get away with what he's about to do. Then he seems to make up his mind. Good.